an amateur team think we can beat you. I don't know how Samsung feels about that. Samsung probably really needs to requalify now just to beat Anarchy during the regular season and shut them down. If I was on Samsung, that's what I would want to do. So there's a lot on the line here for Samsung too. I mean, just generally, obviously, you don't want to be relegated in any region, in any league. Do you have the head coach Lee for Xenics? The Cassiopeia and the Lulu ban against Xenics here. And the Nidalee ban. Nidalee's come up here and there for Samsung. Evos, of course, playing Nidalee even after it got phased out for a little while. And Candy, during his interview, you know, we get some quotes from all these players when they first come in for qualifiers, and Candy said, well, I really want to qualify into the regular season and then kind of be the new shining rookie in mid lane. Of course, one of the first ones to do that was Faker, disregarding the first generation players, because at that point everyone was rookie. Faker, of course, made a huge splash. Rookie, the mid laner for KT when they won. Moving on to China with Kakao, was also a player that made a huge splash. Coco made a pretty big splash when he first debuted. So Candy wanting to kind of continue that legacy here. Oh, I guess Pawn also. I mean, he kicked off his career solo killing Faker 4 times, so that's about the best you could ask for. And Cho'Gath being banned out. And then Rek'Sai. Well, Cho'Gath being banned out opens up a lot of assassin possibilities here. But Rek'Sai is banned out, so why not take Gragas? I mean, you have both LeBlanc and Zed open. You can just make it a skill matchup in mid, worst case. So taking that Gragas, which really kind of limits the jungle to be a little bit more passive from Xenics. Unless you want to take Nunu and just steal camps from level 1, and then I guess in some passive-aggressive way, you take the aggression there. Prioritizing the Gnar for top lane on Xenics. Hecarim is open. The Hecarim isn't as much of a go-to top lane pick anymore for a lot of these players. And then Sivir is still the go-to for almost all of the AD players we've seen. Then the Azir being picked up, of course, with just the Cassiopeia being banned out. Not too surprising. Ace had a good game in the first game of the day with Azir. And Xenics. Also, wait, Maokai wasn't banned out. And Xenics prioritized that Gnar. Huh. Well, I guess at this point, you just take the Maokai for top lane on Samsung if you want. Like, there's no loss in that. Ziggs looks like Easyun plays Ziggs. What more could we ask for? Also plays Xerath. Is this Easyhoon's brother? Oh boy. The Sejuani, not too surprising for the jungle. So, what do you take for the AD carry here? I mean, it all depends on how you want to play at the lane since you have Thresh. You could either go passive with Thresh playing a defensive, or you could take Lucian and go aggressive in lane, which will probably force a lane swap from Xenics, which means what do you take for your top lane? Maokai wouldn't be too bad. You could also take Smite Hecarim. But I think if Maokai's open, why not? Maokai's so tanky, so versatile. So all around, solid lineup for Samsung once again. And we're waiting for a support pickup for Xenics. And Nautilus, all right. TML does seem to prefer supports that have, you know, hard impact with initiates, such as Thresh and Annie, and Nautilus being up in there, of course. So just gonna lock that in. We almost didn't have someone leading the cheer for Xenics, but someone stood up for the cause. Not the same man in the red sweater, though. Just doesn't have the same feel as yesterday. My allergies are also out in full force, and I forgot to bring a pack of tissues. So I might just have to blow my nose on my microphone, and you guys can all deal with my allergies with me. That'd be so gross if you think about it. It would also probably hurt your ears, but aside from that, it'd be really gross. I regret talking about that. 2 heals on the side of Xenics, whereas we do have the cleanse coming in from Ace. I am still tempted to say clairvoyance sometimes when I see that icon. Although, like, I never confuse the ability. Like, I understand that the ability is still cleanse, but sometimes the word clairvoyance just wants to pop out. Maybe it's just because I miss clairvoyance. I miss when the trend was take clairvoyance and clairvoyance at level 1 to see their items. It's like, ha, we know your items now. That was a popular thing back in the day in League of Legends. At least in solo queue. I forget if it was popularized among pro teams. Probably not as much. But clairvoyance in general was pretty popular in professional matches because it was just like mad extra vision. And yeah, nothing too crazy. Just going to take the small creeps next to the blue here for Xenics to try to even out. Samsung took both the Krugs though. So they're just trying to even out an XP by doing that on the side of Xenics because they understand that most likely Samsung will go for the Krugs. QV goes back up top after taking a camp. Hits that level 2 a little bit earlier. And so the earlier level 2 actually coming down for Xenics with their little jungle spiel, but not by much. So Samsung's still going to have the advantage just because they are the aggressors in this matchup. I mean, Nautilus is pretty scary, but Thresh can shove Nautilus back, and at the same time, Lucian's going to simply dish out more damage than Sivir early on. Actually, just in general, Lucian. And Ace has taken a little bit of poke. That Boomerang Blade, oh man, it's actually just charging up. You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of the tiles that you sometimes see in the top-down Zelda games. They like float up and they start spin and then they start to spin and then they come at you. It also just looks really creepy, but it's probably just our spectator mode. It's actually kind of cool. Otherwise, it's going to be super quiet, which means there's not much for me to talk about. And it's probably going to stay this way for quite some time, actually. This is not what I asked for, solo casting all these best of 3s. I was so happy yesterday because all the games are super action-packed, regardless of mistakes or not. We had like level 1 fights and everything. Well, not in the jungle, but in lane. Ooh, some... Okay, nope. Not going to happen. Shaft just going to get out of there. Gragas is showing up on the enemy side, and Nautilus is going to get caught. They're actually going to go over the wall with the Lantern from lane. TML takes a ton of damage, flashes over into tower range. So they trade the Ignite for the Flash. Lots of damage. Yeah, TML going over just to try to put a ward down. I mean, obviously he knew Wraith was missing into the river, but if it was just Wraith, I don't think TML would have been worried. And they did actually see... Yeah, wait, they knew Eve was there too because of the ward being placed. Shaft would have seen that in the jungle. I guess TML just kind of knowing that, or having faith that he could get out. And he did, eventually, with Flash, but... It happened. Uh-oh, the stun hits on Ace. There's a slow. Oh, but the Flash follow through from Shaft picks up the kill. Nice gank from Shaft. Flashing over at the very end of that Arctic Assault and getting that knock-up. Very well done. Candy also hitting that stun to kick things off and whittling down Ace throughout the lane phase. Alright, well, guess the players heard me because we had some action, and now we'll be back for 5 minutes of peace and tranquility here on Summoner's Rift. Except for the minions. The minions will never have peace. It's really sad if you think about it. It's like the ones who fight the most on Summoner's Rift are essentially the minions. The one who gets to have the most peace is probably the Scuttle Crab. Although actually not these days, because everyone's realizing how powerful the Scuttle Crab ward is. So, you know, that doesn't feel too great either. Ace has been having a tough time in lane in general in all these games. Of course, the first game of the day with Azir, he just built back up and he did just fine. And that can still happen in this game too, but when Xerath gets built up too, he can just shut him down from afar. And Candy can also just kind of assassinating someone else on the team of Samsung from afar. So it's going to be dangerous. So Ace really needs to, he basically needs to step it up in lane to the point where he doesn't keep getting caught. And all right, they erase the ward, and 2 members of Xenics here, Sejuani and TML, both ready. If Ace makes even a move towards that pink ward, he's going to die. But TML and Shad will just back off. They don't want to spend too much time doing nothing. Wards from both teams around Dragon Pit. Meanwhile, Eve is going to show up in bottom lane. They want to try to make something happen again here in bottom. Wraith trying to see what the wards are at. And wow, Cruxley just reading the situation says, all right, let's just back off. They probably know. I don't think we have an entrance here. Meanwhile, that's going to give Eve a chance to clear out these pink wards. And so you can't really use that for mind games anymore here in the mid lane. Both mid laners do have their ultimates. And Eve, is he going to get caught out? Yeah, he's just going to give up on erasing that pink ward, so Shaft will still be able to keep that alive. But for how long is the question. Ace and Candy trading back and forth. Candy getting a little bit of an advantage on that, but Ace, all right, yeah. If he got hit by that, it would have been a little bit dangerous. But not going to happen. Top lane is just going to be pretty quiet through and through. And Ace, yeah, looks like he's just going to be forced to go back home. I mean, both players do have quite a bit of gold stacked up, I'm sure. So Candy will be okay too. Ace coming back with some more mana regen. Candy will probably do the same here. We'll see if given Candy's resources though, and that he has another biscuit and a ward, he's probably cool. Oh yeah, he's gonna go back because Eve's here guarding the lane. If not, I wouldn't have been surprised if Candy had some other ways of continuing farming for him to go back and maybe get enough gold for boots or something like that to round out his build. But he's just gonna get an extra pink ward. So apparently, funny news is that for whatever reason, the fact that I'm solo casting 2 days in a row hit #1 in search keywords just now in Korea. So people are apparently really interested about my solo cast in English here in Korea. They probably are just really interested in how crazy and tired I am afterwards. Now, top lane is, yeah, there's still nothing to talk about. I'm not even going to bother, even if we look at it. We'll just look at what else is happening somewhere else, and still not much either. I think it's really, again, Candy and Ace. Who wants to be a little bit more aggressive? Who gets more help from their junglers? Now, I mean, the fact that nothing is happening, though, is pretty discouraging for me. Because there's, like, this is how this game is going to go. This is how it's going to be for the next 20 minutes still. I'm pretty confident, unless someone makes a big mistake. Or, like, some crazy play happens in mid. But neither one has Ignite either. So I don't expect to see that either. Kakarot kind of baiting Cuvee, and Cuvee gets a lot of damage onto him. So Kakarot probably like, oh shoot. He was trying to freeze the lane at the same time, really. He wasn't trying to bait Cuvee into anything because you don't have Ignite. He will have Mega Gnar, but he doesn't have pots, whereas Cuvee does. So I think Kakarot is just going to have to accept that. He's uh-oh, here comes the ultimate from TML. They do Lantern out and also avoids the double knockup. Wraith blocks the dredge line, and Wraith will just sacrifice himself as Shaft picks up a kill in bottom lane. Shaft with 2 kills now. Meanwhile, mid lane still trading. Candy trying to always win out on the trade zone, and he is health-wise. Xenics, oh wow, a nice knockup and a knockback from Ace and Eve. They get the kill onto Candy. What a play by Ace Azir, picking things back up. Trying to even out on what they lost out in bottom lane. Xenics will still get the dragon, and hello there, Maokai. Cuvee, the ultimate scout. Yeah, well, yeah, dragon. I mean, Kakarot's not in top lane either since he was bottom, so I guess Cuvee, I mean, he could have He could have shoved the lane in and actually forced Kakarot to miss out another wave, so that would have been really good for Samsung. So a little bit of miscommunication on QV teleporting towards Dragon. Xenics picks up that first stack, but nice kill by Ace and Eve are going to even things out here. What a good play using his Sand Soldier here by Ace. Goes in for the damage and then the knockback with Emperor's Divide. Stun coming in from Eve. Knockback with Explosive Cast. Just really well executed. And another dive onto Candy. They're done with that, but QV will die to the tower. Kakarot picks that up. Meanwhile, the tower does eventually go down. And Ace instantly putting up his own tower there in the mid lane. And Xenics just going to go ahead and take care of that. This one was really more to secure the retreat from Samsung after taking that mid tier 1. Gnar picking up that tower destruction. And uh-oh, Shaft getting a little bit too eager to check out what's in the enemy jungle, but no more damage follow-up from Samsung, and Eve running a little low on mana is going to allow Shaft to just escape quietly. Ace now well ahead in CS. Has a kill and an assist. And Candy had to just get boots and settle for that. I wonder what Ace will get. I think he should be able to just finish his Morellonomicon the next time he goes back. I think Samsung is feeling pretty good. They are ahead in gold now. See as Azir gets back home on the minimap. Oh, he's just going to go straight for the Nisu Large Rod because he had that much gold. Why not? Oh, and the boots. Wow. Ace is going to start to hurt already. By a lot. Meanwhile, Candy Xerath is not going to hurt as much anymore. He's not going to have too many solid targets. Bottom lane's been pretty quiet, other than that one 4-man gank on Wraith. That was more of a sacrifice so that Fury could live, though. And sure, a kill is a kill, but the kill went to Sejuani, so it's also not the biggest impact kill that Samsung has given up. And Fury's been farming just fine. In fact, staying just ever so slightly ahead of Lunar. Wraith is just waiting for someone to come closer to that ward, but it'll just get erased from afar by Lunar. Eve here, Shaft here also. Who's going to show up first? Now, I think with the tier 1 pushed in, though, and this ward here, Xenics understands. I mean, I think Shaft was really just there for a defense mechanism. Ace, of course, missing also didn't exactly make things very sneaky. Eve will go ahead and clear that ward. Now, with this tier 1 down, though, I mean, what do you make of this as Samsung? I guess continuing to pressure bottom lane is a pretty good place to start. Really deep wards in the enemy jungle, though, from Xenics. They just saw the ward getting erased in mid. So, generally, they know that they just have to watch out on this bottom side. They know that that's where that Samsung is going to want to focus a lot of their energy and time. So, Xenics just buying time by doing this. Kakarot saying, all right, fine, let's fight. Battle of the Monsters. And Kakarot actually chasing through, putting down a lot of damage. But QV will... Oh, actually, he gets stunned again. This is really dangerous for QV. Oh, he gets the knockback. Kakarot, oh, can he get the hit? Oh, but he gets snared under the tower, and there's a lifesteal. Both of them will trade 1 for 1. Maokai passive OP as he survives long enough. Shaft getting knocked back. Eve gets drawn in by the dredge line. There is the ultimate combo from Nautilus and Sejuani, though, as Lunar shows up and forces a kill onto Eve. Shaft is pretty low, but he's still alive. He's trying to escape from the ground, but Lunar gets caught out by Ace. Lunar stays alive, though he escapes, and Candy picks up a kill onto Wraith. They can't clean up TML either. Xenics, 3 members living at near death, especially Shaft and Lunar. Living with just a sliver. Ace not able to pick that up for the team. Fury also not able to pick up a kill there. The culling not hitting. I think only about half of those hit on Shaft, unfortunately. Well played by Xenics getting out of that, because if Fury and or Ace picked up like 2 kills there, the game would have severely gone in favor of Samsung. So look at this, Eve coming in to kind of disrupt this blue. He gets a nice explosive cast onto Shaft. There's the combo coming in from Nautilus, and Lunar just gets a quick kill onto Eve. Now Ace from behind tries to go in to make something happen, and he gets a good Emperor's Divide, but all of them eventually flash over, and thanks to the stun from Candy, we do have Sivir just running away, and Candy actually, of course, got that kill right after the stun. So Lunar survives that, 1-0-2 now. And Candy evening things out a little bit for himself too. He's still pretty behind in CS, so we see the difference between the Blasting Wand and the Rod on Ace. And so Samsung now looking for a dive here, but they're going to get pincered. Yeah, you're just going to body slam over the wall there. It's TML and Shaft to show up. But Samsung's still hanging out. They want to kill in this bottom lane. A lot of focus from Samsung in the bottom lane. Kakarot, meanwhile, angry that Cube thinks he can keep dueling him. And Lunar will just scare. I mean, Samsung's trying to bait them with all these wards because Dragon is up. They're basically baiting with Curiosity. How long will that last? So Mega Gnar was just used, not the ultimate itself, though. Both teleports up for both top laners. Or teleports up for both top laners. Dragon's already at half health while we were looking at top lane. So that should just be a quick one for Samsung, but here comes On the Hunt. Dredgeline not going to hit, but there's the ultimate. Wraith will get caught out. He eventually dies as Lunar takes a ton of damage. Ace goes in for the finish along with Cube. Nice culling, helping whittle the entire team of Xenics down. And 4 members gone from Xenics in a near instant. Well, TML is actually zoned out by Azir's turret there. And Ace still chases through. He gets the ace. Ace with the ace for Samsung as they push forward here in the mid lane. Well played by Samsung at that Dragon. And will they get the tier 2? Looks like they might here. Not the cannon minion. Lots of damage coming out. And tier 2 also down. Big advantage gain for Samsung at 18 minutes. 4K gold lead. They even out on Dragons. They take the tier 2 in mid. Candy really doesn't have much to do right now. And what will Azir get with all that gold? Probably a death cap. Yep, right there, finished off. There's the pink ward. Now, what can Xenics do? I mean, okay, yeah, they're going to clear that vision, but let's see here. Xerath is pretty weak right now, comparatively speaking, and also his tower's been all pushed in. So he can't just like sit in lane and farm up either. The AD carries are pretty similar, and Sivir Nautilus have a lot of CC, and Sivir has okay damage, but Gragas already has a lot of armor. You're not gonna just insta-give him. Cuvée, of course, is pretty tanky as Maokai. Yeah, you're not doing too much damage. There's a dredge line, but even then, I mean, that tower is doing like way more damage than Lunar is. Lunar got a little too greedy. Shaft, I think it's because they thought they could turn it into a 3v1 pretty quickly, but Shaft got there a little too late for that to happen. Meanwhile, a true 3v1 about to happen in top lane, perhaps. And yeah, just gonna hop away from the death sentence. Candy showing up in top lane. And he's like, oh shoot, never mind. Big guy on the left. And bottom lane eventually gets shoved in by Xenics, so they got something out of that, but they're still pressuring this tier 2. Xenics needs to, or Samsung still is, so Xenics needs to have an answer for this. Looks like they won't, especially with Mega Gnar running out here in a second. I think Kakarot, yeah, just needs to watch out. Don't want to get caught by the explosive cast. The tier 2 given up to Samsung, and Samsung still maintaining that hard lead. They'll also get the red buff steal. Buff control beginning from Samsung as they start to dominate the entire jungle side of Xenics. So Xenics doesn't really have an answer to this. I mean, yeah, you can try to, like, either you sneak a Baron, you get a really good pick, and then lead it to a Dragon or something like that. But aside from that, I don't really see too many opportunities for Xenics to naturally turn the game around. You need like a big play or a bit of a slip up from Samsung. Ace not not able to dash all the way over to the Nexus, but it's okay. We saw it, but it didn't lose you the team fight, so we'll be okay with that. Ace is 2-1-4 after a little bit of a rough laning phase in the last 2 games, and looks like he's well on his way to continue carrying the game this time around. Didn't get any more items this time, though. Samsung really trying to control vision as much as they can, too, which is making a pretty big difference. Yeah, Candy, I guess, checking out Baron because things were pretty quiet. Baron is untouched, though, so Xerath's ult is down, which it's, like, sad because it doesn't matter too much because Xerath isn't super strong right now. So it's cool if you use that for vision. I mean, it'll come back up sooner or later. Pings from both teams near the Baron, which really holds more meaning for Samsung. Shaft trying to look for an angle, but QV is going to spot him. He's going to let Shaft just charge over the wall and run away. And Azir, yep, sets up the turret at the tier 1. Will they go for the Baron or at least bait it? They are all prepared to bait this so hard. I mean, this is so telegraphed as a Baron that Xenics has to check it. Shaft gets death sentence. There's the flash forward for the box by Wraith. Shaft is still getting away, though, as Azir just zones out the damage from Xenics. Shaft is pretty tanky, so Samsung will take a long time chasing him through. Eventually gets the kill, and they should be able to just go back for a Baron, too, because Lunar took so much damage from Ace's Azir over that Raptor camp. Samsung going for the Baron. It's going down pretty quickly. Teleport coming in from Kakarot, but it looks like it might be too late. There's Xerath's ult. Hits, I believe, one of them onto Ace, maybe one onto Wraith too, but it doesn't matter as Samsung does get the Baron with the smite, and Xenics way too close as they get caught out. TML dies. Lunar has been caught out a little bit. Oh, they actually turned that into a kill onto Eve, though. Samsung got a little too overeager. They're pretty low, too. All right. Candy was not able to pick up that kill. And Samsung, yeah, they lost Eve, but they still got the Baron buff. They got another kill for themselves, too, on TML. And I think they're okay with that. Ace now at 2-1-6, 2-0-4 for Fury on Lucian. Having one of the leader games as AD carry in terms of KDA. I can speak English. Don't worry. That's why I'm on the English cast. And Samsung really now they just need to play the same way they have been for the past 23 minutes, and then they'll be able to win the game. It's one of the, this is one of those just classic leads that you get. It's like, all right, we push down the towers, and we caught up in the dragons. We'll lead in the dragons. We got a quiet Baron after baiting. It's like textbook how to win League of Legends, right? It's like when your team comps are similar, you wait for a lead, win a team fight, take a tower, and then you rinse repeat for every single objective that you take until it comes to a point where you can just take objectives without baiting or team fighting. And that is, I believe, where Samsung is already. They don't need to make those kind of interesting plays to take another objective. They're just ahead on paper. They do have a 6K gold lead. Xenics does have, a decent amount of kills too. It's not a stomp. It's not a stomp by any means, which is why it's not going to be like easy for Samsung, but they can also just play quietly and win the game. Now, Kive still trying to push up top. The rest of his team is just pushing up bottom. Quite frankly, I think, if you're going to back off after just pushing that one wave, you could have just regrouped earlier, I think. But you'll still get this tier 2, because Xenics cannot defend this, especially without Gnar. I mean, who's going to frontline that? Sejuani can, but not on her own. So tier 2 goes down pretty easily for Samsung. And Maokai now regrouping in mid. Looks like they want to pressure one inhibitor while they have that Baron buff. It's not going to last for too much longer. So after just shoving, they're like, all right, well, top lane actually, all the tier 2s are down, so you can't get like another tower in top lane either. So the Baron buff gonna end before they can take another tower for Samsung. So they took one in bottom lane. And also a dragon during that buff period. Not too bad. Not too shabby at all. Alright. Void Staff now out for Ace. Yeah, at this point, I mean, this is what we've noticed with Azir games. It's like, even if you're behind as Azir, like as long as you're not the one who's been getting caught all the time and dying, like as long as you're not being super targeted, you can just farm up. You can do so much damage from afar. Again, similarly to Xerath, right? It's the same when we saw Xerath as a really popular pick, is that you can just farm up and then you have so much burst. But in some ways, Azir has a lot more utility, especially with Emperor's Divide, and therefore Azir being kind of the popular pick these days, and Xerath being phased out for a little while now. And I think Ace is in that point. We saw that with Ezion at MSI against AHQ. Faker also in their game at MSI on the first day. So Samsung looks like they're going to lead this series 1-0 if all things go as planned, and then they'll be well on their way to getting another win and securing their spot in Champions Summer 2015. Looks like if you were a fan of the new lineup of Samsung, or you're just a fan of the team brand, then you can start to be a little bit happy and keep your hopes up. But of course, you never know until the game's over, because we've seen some weird games and weird finishes to League of Legends matches in the past. We've got the Xpecades, we've got the Insects, we've got the CLGs, we've got the Dignitases. We have all sorts of things going on. All right. Samsung continuing to push. They're probably just going to wait until the next Dragon and Baron, unless like Xenics leaves a lane completely open. So Samsung just going to continue to pressure all lanes. They might want to start getting a little bit more vision on the bottom side too. I mean, that much vision is okay, but if you want to be like super safe, I think you can put down a little bit more vision on the bottom side too and secure the Dragon really quick, and then head over to the Baron. You can keep Cuvée up top too while you do the Dragon, so as to make sure that Xenix doesn't try to counter Baron while you're doing Dragon. Right, yeah, getting a little bit more vision deeper so you can read Xenix's movement exactly as soon as they leave lanes. And wards like that is really going to help as soon as you continue split pushing towards inhibitors, because you can maybe get picks right as Xenix shifts from lane to lane. It's going to force Xenix to move around behind their base walls, which for one, wastes a little bit of time, and two, means that Xenix is playing super passive. All they can do is clear waves from beyond the wall. There's a Scuttle Crab being taken down bottom. Scuttle Crab already taken up top next to Baron. And Wraith is going home, but that's fine. He's still got 45 seconds until Dragon. Lucian can solo it anyway, as long as there aren't any enemies around. We have Fury waiting to drink up on that elixir as soon as a fight starts. Get that extra lifesteal off of champions, some extra damage. And with all this vision, Xenix cannot try to counter Baron either. They're just trying to get their vision back a little bit, and they got a little bit, but no vision within the pit. So the curiosity is still going to kick in as soon as Samsung starts to disappear from the map. Yeah, given where Xenix is and Lunar running pretty low, looks like Cuvée going to flash forward. He cannot get the twisted advance onto Lunar. Won't be able to lead that into a kill. Baron is up, and Dragon now up. What's Samsung's choice? They are using Azir's passive once again to keep Xenix at bay, but them committing a little bit to that and that not leading to a kill is a little unfortunate. Using Xerath's ult to check out Baron for a little bit and then trying to get some damage onto Ace. It looks like he did get at least a hit. But yeah, Fury, there we go. During that time, he's going to go ahead and take Dragon, and then they can start baiting the Baron a little bit again. Kakarot is pushing the bottom lane really hard though, so he can. Yeah, but now he's scared because he has no vision. So if he could continue to pressure that, I mean, Xenix could have bought themselves a little bit more time. But all of Samsung backed off from the mid lane, so Xenix gets a little bit of more vision retained around their red buff. They still have no vision within the pit itself or right at the entrance of it. And because of Eve's positioning, Xenix hasn't really had a chance to continue to go in for that vision all of Samsung coming back. Azir a little bit far behind, but Fury is back there in the mid lane alongside Wraith. Fury with that last whisper, and there's Sejuani, and he actually gets the stun onto Fury. Oh, but the stun not leading him from Xerath. Xerath not connecting the damage. Fury just runs off, and Eve shows up. He goes in for the stun, and he separates everyone as he just zones out Lunar. Eve just charging forward alongside Cubase. There's a culling onto TML. Nice kill. Kakarot comes in, but Emperor's Divide pushes the Mega Gnar back. Lunar gets caught by Cubase and Eve. Eve finishes off the kill onto Sivir. Kakarot left all behind by his team as Candy runs away with full health. Shaft at a quarter health. Samsung really wants to get a kill onto the Xerath too, but there's a nice little slow and a stun in reverse order onto the members of Samsung. And don't think that would have, yeah, you needed all 3 hits. Man, it's really close though. 11 health. Wow, that's gonna feel really unfortunate for Candy, but the point is that Samsung wins that team fight and they get the middle inhibitor, and then they can lead that into a Baron. Shaft correctly, or making the correct choice here, had to run away from the team fight. Might as well shove in the bottom lane before you go home, because you weren't going to defend that inhibitor on your own anyway. But the question is, can he come back in time to contest that Baron? I don't know. Cubase doesn't have his teleport, so I guess you have that advantage. And your teammates are all in mid lane, so Samsung also going to back off that Baron. And Samsung's okay with that. I mean, they don't need the Baron to win right now. They have a 9k gold lead, 10k gold lead now, with 2 extra dragon stacks. In terms of leveling, they're quite ahead too. Ace at 17, 3 levels ahead of Candy. And you have Fury 3 levels ahead of Lunar too. That is pretty big. That is pretty big. So, like, Candy just, I mean, as soon as you fall behind on Xerath and then your opponent has a similar style where you can just build up and then burst from afar, it's so hard for Candy to have as big of an impact anymore. Especially also because you have Maokai and Gragas who will dive into you if you stay too close or if you don't keep moving. So Candy really has to poke them out before the start begins. But if your poke isn't hurting too much, then that doesn't happen as well. And Samsung, oh, the check does come in from Candy's ultimate though. So Arcane Barrage gonna check that out and stops Fury from doing that Baron. Emperor's Divide is also a big threat against Candy too. So basically Candy has to play scared now because he is behind and his poke isn't as meaningful. Look at the damage from the culling. Candy down to a 3rd health. Yeah, there's just too many threats for Candy to worry about at this point that he can't do like the base damage that Xerath has, given that he's behind on farm a little bit. Doesn't have the Void Staff, whereas Ace has the Void Staff and that DC Large Rod. And here we go, nice stun onto Wraith. Wraith is caught out. Ace does get knocked up by TML. Lunar gets the kill onto Wraith, but look at the damage coming in from Ace Azir. Explosive cast, not able to finish off Lunar, but Lunar has to go home. And so Samsung will just turn right back around onto the Baron. Xenics, will they just throw everything on the line here to try to go for a steal? Shaft puts the ward down. Can Shaft go for the steal? He gets the stun onto Cubase, but meanwhile Emperor's Divide comes in onto Candy as Fury finishes off that kill. And Cubase's just like, I can be here all day, guys. Oh, but it's because they're waiting for Eve. They didn't want to whittle it down because Shaft is there. And so Shaft just tries to force the smite battle, but no one's hitting it from Samsung as Shaft eventually goes down. That is... okay. I'm sorry, Xenics, but the game is over when Maokai can literally sit there for 30 seconds, 40 seconds, and be like, I will tank Baron without hitting him a single time until my jungler comes back. That hurts a lot. Fury 6-0-5, by the way, at this point. 3-1-10 Ace. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you do poorly at levels 1 through 3, because you will, you know, you can just carry late game. That's cool. And they're going to charge forward onto Kakarot. They're not going to find anything there, but they do have the Baron buff, so Samsung looking to get another inhibitor and or finish the game here. Well, look at that, Banner of Command onto that supercharged cannon minion. It's like super duper charged now. And Lunar trying to go in, but just gets shut down by Cubase and Ace and Eve. And that is a game, ladies and gentlemen. Samsung will be able to clean up this fight. Doesn't matter if Ace got stunned because Fury is still alive and well. charge forward with damage on the TML. Cuvee got a little too excited, but Fury's cleaning the base on Xenics' side of the map, and Samsung will lead this match once again, 1-0. Samsung is now. Look at that. That's so awesome. All right, Xenics now on the blue side, and Samsung there on the red side. I was gonna say the right side, which is technically correct. Now, Samsung, they last game, they focus fired Candy during their bans, put him on Xerath, and he wasn't really able to do too much with that. I mean, he traded really well in lane 1v1, no doubt, but it didn't really matter once the ganks came in and the ace grew, and the rest of Samsung was really just getting fed to overall. The Maokai ban, really solid. I mean, that's what we learned at MSI. Sure, you don't always, perhaps not every game you're going to first pick it, but at the same time, if you get the opportunity, you're going to pick it, because Maokai's one of those champions where, yeah, he has a couple really strong points, but it's not like he's going to be a carry or something like that. But these days, more and more what we're finding out is at the end of the day, in any meta, if you never die as the top lane, then that's cool. And Maokai does that really well. Gragas being banned out. Kalista also possibly looking for a Rek'Sai pickup here, so the Rek'Sai going to be banned out also. Samsung says, well, if we can't get one of them, you can't get any of them either. And so after the Maokai ban, really prioritizing Gnar. I don't know how I feel about that. The Gnar wasn't terrible last game from Kakarot, but yeah, I mean, if anything, I think if you're going to prioritize something, maybe the Hecarim. Sion, I mean, no matter how good you are, I don't know if Sion is first pick priority material. If you're going to do that, why not just first pick Sivir, you know? Yeah, I mean, Kakarot's played Sion before and whatnot, but yeah, when you have first pick, okay, because Sion is not exactly the most contested pick anyway, so if you're going to play something that you can play really well but isn't the most popular, then might as well just take something, even if it's not super contention, that you can just secure, like a Sejuani or a Sivir. So Sejuani gets taken away by Xenics, so Samsung will have to dig a little deeper for a jungle pick here, and they might wait a little bit, maybe into the next round of picks for that one. Cuvee saying, well, okay, well, Hecarim's open. Might as well try to bring the carry back from the top. And then Sivir. Fury played really well on Sivir in the first match against Prime. He nods and says, yeah, I'm ready. Put me in, coach. So Sivir and Hecarim. Also on the hunt, gonna help Hecarim too, of course. Just Sivir's ultimate. I don't know who it doesn't synergize with. I mean, extra mobility just helps everyone in the game in one way or another. It's never not helpful. The only time you waste the Sivir ult, is if you ult alone. And, when you're not exactly going anywhere emergent. If you ult on your way back to lane when there's nobody there. That's, the only time you can really say it was a true waste of Sivir's ultimate. Otherwise, it will always help someone somewhere. Alright, well, now that Hecarim's been selected, I think the Sion is fine. If you weren't going to prioritize Hecarim anyway, Sion's okay against Hecarim. Of course, Sion got a slight nerf in 5.8. But, not to a point where if you're a good Sion player, it's going to completely, destroy your pick. He still has all the merits that he had beforehand. And so Sion will be locked in for that top lane against Hecarim. So the top lane matchup seems to be confirmed at this point. Meanwhile, since Thresh is taken away, Wraith looking at bringing back the Alistar. He played pretty well against Prime with that. And then the Nunu also coming back for Samsung. So this is all on Fury once again in Cuvee. Cassipian and Azir both banned out, so LeBlanc is available here for Candy to play if he wants in that mid lane. not his favorite champions. His favorite champions, among the likes of Victor, Cassiopeia, and Lissandra, so a little bit more mage-based. And looking at Ahri, though, kind of the go-to for a lot of Korean mids, along with LeBlanc for mids everywhere around the world. And Draven, wouldn't expect that. Maybe Jinx, I can see that. I mean, yeah, against a Hecarim and an Alistar, it can be dangerous, but you have the Thresh there, and then at the very least, the enemy jungler is not someone who has a gap closer and then has hard CC. I mean, sure, once you get caught by a Nunu, you can pretty much say goodbye as Jinx, but I mean, if there are other enemies there for damage. But my point is, it's not like a Rek'Sai, it's not like Gragas who can stun you with a gap closer before you can put your traps under them. Now Kassadin being hovered over once again. Now Ace. All right. You gonna play Kassadin? I mean, Ace has talked about how confident he is on Kassadin before when he first came onto the Samsung team. All right. And hello, QV. Can you get the death sentence? Nope. The invade coming in. And they're just going to get some wards down and some vision probably. At the same time, Eve said, all right, well, if they're going to go up through the top side, I'm going to go in through the middle. And then he's like, actually, I'm here all alone, so I'm just going to back off. And I think that's smart of Xenics to also just back off after the invade. It's a Nunu, so like starting at the enemy red is not, like you're not going to get a huge advantage. Especially because Eve might start at your blue and then go to your red and then go to his blue. I mean, just Nunu, you don't want to be too crazy with the jungle Nunu, against the jungle Nunu, because he can be just as crazy on his own without teammates when it comes to camps. And looks like a lane swap coming in from Samsung. Fury was spotted by that ward, but yeah, they're just all going to be spotted. And they saw Nunu on the top side too, so we are... Oh, but we're not going to see Shaft start on his blue anyway. Xenix is going to follow suit and match that 2v2 though, because of course they want it with Jinx and Thresh. They want that 2v2 matchup. Whereas Sion is just going to be Sion. Brown being taken by Lunar and TML. Kakarot is going to finish off that camp there. And then he'll go back to lane in the bottom lane, because QV also came with Smite. So Kakarot just saying, you know, I just want to even things out here. So Kakarot said, his quote is, "Live like Flame, play like Impact." Not really, I get the whole play like Impact part. You know, kind of be the Rock, right? Impact was known as the Rock of SKT. But I'm not really sure what to think of the whole live like Flame part. I mean, if you want to also shower in bottled water all the time, like that's cool. You know, you do your thing, whatever floats your boat, right? If bottled water floats your boat, let it float. But if that's your motto for life, I don't know. I do wonder about your other priorities at the same time. Meanwhile, we saw Eve being just as annoying as any Nunu player should be. And TML going in with the Flay, but nice headbutt from Wraith. The trap's not connecting right away. The exhaust onto Fury. Death Sentence being shielded by the spell shield. Fury really waiting for the last minute to make sure that he can avoid that hard CC coming in from Thresh. Well played by the Samsung bottom duo that is now in top. Sejuani's still there because he saw Eve run through and then leave. So Shaft trying to see if he can get another angle here, but the lane's pushed up, so yeah, you might as well go back because you're going to lose so much time off of that. And QV is just like, all right, well, I'm going to shove through and then just keep jungling anyway because my jungler is in the enemy jungle. I remember the days when having double smite on a team was considered trolling no matter what. And here we are today when It's really common. Not as much anymore as it was when it was first popularized in the spring season by various regions, but still there. Eve hanging around. Did some damage to the enemy jungle, hasn't gone back home, so trying to see if he can get some advantage here. But again, for Nunu, your ganks aren't going to be the scariest part. I mean, with an Alistar or something like that, sure, you can lead it into infinite snowballs, but aside from that, you're not going to want to invest too much time in camping a lane unless you need a lot of help. Ace using his shield really well to try to trade, but he is running a little bit lower on mana. Of course, Candy changing his health pots into biscuits with metallurgy and having that advantage with mana here in trades. Ace simply relying on his skills and his flask for the mana in lane. And as I continue to blow my nose during this tournament, nothing interesting happened. We're looking at, all right, Shaft hasn't really been able to do too much either. Had gone back home earlier, gonna go back home again to get a couple more wards. Ruby Crystal. Ace is now completely dry on mana, but Shaft is nowhere nearby, so it's not gonna matter. He still has Flash too. He's not level 6, so it's not like he lost his escape with lack of mana, but it does mean that he's not gonna trade as often anymore, but he's okay with that because he already traded more efficiently against Candy. So he's ahead in health. And now if he's the one who always chooses when to trade, then he can continue to stay ahead in health because he gets a shield every time he trades. Meanwhile, Wraith trying to zone out Lunar. The Xenics lane is pushing a little bit on top. Both mid laners are level 6. Nice damage coming in from Candy. He realizes, all right, well, Ace is kind of low on mana. I need to try to get an advantage here, but he takes some damage from the minions, and Shaft and Eve are going to run into each other, and they're both going to back off. And Fury is pretty low, but there's a headbutt back into the tower onto TML, but Fury too scared to chase through on that damage with Lunar sitting back. So both sides just kind of chill out after that trade. No one used summoners in the 2v2. Meanwhile, mid lane, both champions are even on CS, and Ace is fine with that. LeBlanc didn't get a kill, so Cassidy just doing his job. And of course, the bottom 1v1's been a similar story here. Juve a little bit ahead, but that's also because he can just jungle camps after he pushes up a lane. Juve also has the Gromp passive on him, so he can win trades too, much more easily. He has a Skirmisher's Saber too, so that helps. Looks like Candy may be looking to help out that bottom lane then. Or just getting wards on Dragon, because it is a Nunu on the other side. Good awareness from him. Candy still trying to trade. He actually gets the chain onto Ace as TML shows up, but Candy takes some damage, and TML was spotted by a ward. He also walked into lane, so he's going to back off. Ace is going to pick up his blue off of Eve. And Samsung swapping the lanes back, adding a little bit more pressure towards that bottom lane, because Hecarim has been doing just fine, got the Ninja Tabby, and this also allows Eve to have a little bit more space while he dragons. So Samsung doing this seamlessly. Of course, there is a ward there, but who's there to stop it? You do have LeBlanc coming down, but Ace is prepared to move down first. TML showing up, but no damage follow through from there. Shaft, his ult is probably the only chance. Okay, he can't try to go Lantern in. He's not going to get it. The rocket a little bit late from Lunar. And then Eve instantly smiting that off and getting the dragon. But Shaft had the right idea. You know, you go in with the Arctic Assault, you come back out with a Lantern after you try to smite. He just couldn't get it as Eve was a little bit too quick on that one. And precise. Now, Samsung is still just really quiet. You know, I do want to mention that, so when Samsung won before, like, or when they looked like they could win certain games during the regular season, is that it was when they like really shined with their individual talent or their neat little picks like the Syndra support and things like that. But today, so yesterday, Longzhu IM like dominated their games. It was it was just a domination on all 4 games. Whereas Samsung today, I wouldn't say is as dominating, but at the same time, this is what I've been saying all day, is that they're showing that they have grown as a team. Wraith gets caught back a little bit, actually. He's going to get snared for the traps. The slow going to go down on him. The exhaust on Lunar is going to deny a lot of that damage alongside Alistar's ultimate. There's the Arctic Assault, though, forcing the flash out from Wraith. So they blow a lot of summoners and spells off of Wraith, and Ace, meanwhile, is going to get traded by Candy as he blinks backward. Oh, he'll still go down to the Ignite, and the minion hits, though. And Candy actually had to use his flash to try to live at the very end, but still died. So Ace, I think, is okay with that trade. Sure, Candy can start snowballing that too, but here comes the Scion ultimate, and there goes the Fury. Goodbye, Fury. So they chase him off, which means they'll probably just shove in this tower. Kakarot did just show up in lane by walking down here after going home, so he's just going to teleport back up top to save his own tower. Tier 1 in the top lane. Eve taking this chance to steal the blue, though. So LeBlanc's not going to get her blue while Cassian already has his. So that's another advantage that Samsung has in the mid lane. But with the first tower going to Xenics, they will have a slight gold lead. And Candy's not going to be too happy. Candy versus Ace, the battle of the assassins. Meanwhile, Eve also smiting the wolf here to provide more vision in that enemy jungle for both QV and Ace. The top side of the map. Yeah, and at this point, Ace can continue to just trade more efficiently against Candy here. He's also just building health because that's what you do. He has a shield on his Noosphere. There's just a lot. Shaft has literally nothing to farm here. I guess the Gromp's waiting there for him. Eve is about a level ahead, maybe a little bit more. Candy's already at half health. He's trying to chase through with some extra damage, but it almost feels like a little bit of a desperation from Candy, right? It's like, no, I will not accept that I've lost out on health. And Ace is like, yes, you will, because I'm going to keep bringing you down lower and lower. Candy's in a lot of danger here. I mean, sure, both Ignites are down, and that's a little comforting to know that Ace can't just completely all in you, but he is Kassadin. He can just jump in and burst you down once you get really low. Ace also has his flash, so he can dive the tower too if that's what it takes. Meanwhile, up top has been pretty quiet. QV's actually just been able to continuously farm very safely. Bottom lane's also been really quiet. Both sides just farming quietly. Both supports going for that side zone, and nothing too crazy from there. TML and Shaft both waiting here in the mid lane because Candy needs some help, but it is a Kassadin that you're trying to catch. Ace takes some extra damage this time, but Candy's still lower, and Candy's just squishier in general, you know, because she's not building health, or he's not building health. I guess the player himself is male, so I can say the champion is female. And Fury showing up after Samsung lost their bottom tier 1 just to help shove it in. Candy is at half health. There's Wraith and Eve also. Kakarot coming in with a Scion ultimate, but yeah, it's not really going to connect to anything. I think it was really just to save that tier 1 because it looked like Samsung might continue pressuring that to no end. And they're going to go at it again as we see Shaft, TML, and Lunar show up from the bottom lane for Xenics. It is already at half health, but yeah, it's Sivir, not Jinx, on the side of Samsung, so they're not going to be able to clear that tower from afar. And global goal now equal for both teams, so Xenics losing out a little bit of that advantage that they had from pushing down the tier 1 at bottom. Dragon up in a minute, and QV finishing his Cinderhulk up top. Kassadin, is he able to get his ROA when he goes back this time? I feel like he should be able to. Soon as he lands home. Yep, there it is. Finishes his ROA at 13 minutes, a little bit over 13 minutes, but that's just about good timing. And he'll have that combination, you know, extra stats there from that item for the next dragon fight. Will Fury have an item finished is another big question. He also doesn't have boots, while Lunar chose to get upgraded boots in the middle of his way to the Infinity's Edge. And Samsung just needs to kind of hold on to this tower, get a little bit of vision, and then go towards Dragon. Yeah, they just shoved in the bottom lane too, so Xenics is scurrying down there to try to get that XP. It is going to be Candy on that LeBlanc going in to soak it in, as you do need to defend that middle tier 1 also. Otherwise, Samsung could instantly just turn things around in mid lane and pressure Candy out of that area. So Xenics just kind of responding to Samsung's movements, and Samsung still has a bit of an advantage in terms of vision. They also just have the Nunu for this Dragon. They're going to leash it first. And looks like they're going to commit to it. Hecarim already teleporting far behind though, so on the hunt coming through. And, oh wow, Cuvee dodges the Flay just in time and then goes back in with Onslaught of Shadows. Cuvee wanted to perfect that gank. He didn't take any chances. Even if he got flayed, he still had Onslaught of Shadows. But my goodness, that reaction of just baiting out the Flay to make sure that he gets full damage from his increased movement speed. Really impressive. And Samsung will cleanly take that second Dragon. Now with all 5 of them here, will they just continue pressuring mid lane? Hecarim's and Sivir's ultimate are down. Absolute Zero's still there though. Sejuani also lost her ult in that last fight. Wraith can go in with his. So I don't think Xenix wants to commit too hard into trying to harass here in this mid lane. It could get dangerous. And so yeah, they're just going to back off. Xenix not looking for a fight that could lead into a dive or anything crazy like that. Cassidy, of course, doesn't have flash anymore, but can jump in and out as long as he's not super targeted. He's going to just hop away from that death sentence. And so Xenix is just trying to bank on the fact that Samsung doesn't have a couple of their ultimates, but yeah, you're not going to really turn that into any fruition. So they're going to disperse back into their lanes where they can just at least gather up on experience and try to tie up on that. Kakarot right now down 1 level, a couple other levels behind here and there too on the side of Xenix, so they really want to try to stay on top of that and stay on par in terms of experience in this game. And Fury, he should be able to finish his Infinity's Edge once he goes home this time around. I'm sure he already has enough gold for it. Lunar finished hers, or his. I don't know why I suddenly get confused about whether to call the pronouns for the champions or the players, but that's where I am after being halfway done with today's solo cast. Cuvee gonna go home. 1 item. Oh, I guess he'll just finish his phage, probably. Frozen Heart finished by Kakarot, but that means Ace can still do a lot of damage to him. I mean, sure, he has a lot of health, but... Oh, Cuvee has nowhere near the gold, I guess, to finish the phage, so... I was overestimating his gold-digging powers. And LeBlanc is not too relevant right now. Yeah, I mean... Oh, nice spell shield, too. Again, it's like in any case where you pick LeBlanc, and I think... So, I don't know, I felt the same way at MSI Finals where I understand why Faker picked LeBlanc. Oh, wow, Candy gets shut down by Wraith. Wraith was so ready for that. And Candy trying to fake them out. He eventually flashes away. Shaft trying to zone out for him, and Candy will eventually live. But Wraith with some quick reactions. Eve gets caught by the death sentence. Not going to connect to the choppers from Jinx. But Samsung is going to shove Candy out of lane. Can they try to push through? No, Lunar on Jinx is going to make sure that doesn't happen. But Wraith really quick on that. And what I was seeing was at the MSI, oh wow, the flash forward, they try to get Fury. He dodges all the ultimates, all the skill shots. Fury, I mean, if he got caught by Sejuani's ult, he would have guaranteed also been caught by Jinx's ult, and he would have died. But man, also by the death sentence too. So nice dodges by Fury. Now let me get back to what I was saying. So at the MSI Finals, Faker picking LeBlanc, I can think of many reasons that aren't strictly strategic for him to pick that, and I can agree with that from SKT's perspective. Of course, EDG came in with a very specific composition prepared for Faker's LeBlanc and just to shut it down. That's a bit of a niche case, but in general, there's a reason why Faker was not that popular in the current meta, and it's because when you have so many bruisers or bruiser types running around, and Sivir is popular as an AD carry, it's so hard for LeBlanc to just shine as a hyper carry. Back in the day, when you think about all the highlights of Faker just like hard carrying when he first showed us his LeBlanc and other players too, it's when things like support Zyra were popular in the meta, where at bare minimum, you knew you could just stomp all over the enemy support, at bare minimum. And then usually also the opponent's mid laner, and maybe their jungler and or AD carry. I mean, you can always try to stomp their AD carry, but that depends on the team comp in general. So these days, you don't see that, right? Every jungler is building very tank heavy. Every top laner is building very tank heavy. We're seeing mid laners who, well, first of all, mid laners eventually will build Zhonya's at one point or another. And we're seeing them either have a lot of a range advantage or build a little bit of defense, like we're seeing with Cassidy with the Rod of Ages. We're seeing Sivir with the Spell Shield. It basically, when can you guarantee, like you can't guarantee that during the pick fan phase that you will find a target on the enemy team. And if you can't feed yourself off of one person continuously, then the game gets a little bit too complicated for it to be worth it to play LeBlanc in the current meta, in my opinion. So that's why I can still understand if you like wait and then you last pick LeBlanc, depending on how the picks went through, or if you have, I mean, so I guess you have Jinx as a different hyper carry. So there's that merit for Xenics' picks and bans. But aside from that, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't, it's not first pick material in my opinion, in any case. Even as KT, generally, even with Faker, even when, you know, they were winning with 13-0 record for Faker, they oftentimes wouldn't just like first pick it blindly. Well, not always, let's put it that way. So I can understand that maybe as a mid laner you're super confident, but I don't really agree with that being a first pick material for any player and or team. Especially when you're seen as the one challenging upwards here against Samsung. And so the next dragon is up. Xenics doesn't want to give this one up. They want to try to catch up here. Fury is going to not get hit, let alone also have a spell shield there. So the other thing that LeBlanc can do then, if you can't kill them, at least bring someone down below half health so that they have to go home, right? That's how you used to play LeBlanc in the other metas too, is that if you couldn't kill the support, bring someone down to half health. And that's why things like LeBlanc, Caitlyn were really good combos, because then Caitlyn could finish them off with Ace in the hole. Here comes the teleport. Nice double knockup by Wraith. He sends one back. Shaft gets caught by the Absolute Zero. He's slowed. Fury continuing to chase. Here comes QV. Onslaught of Shadows. Lunar flashes out. Candy is just going to be ignored as QV comes back to help secure the kill, because here comes Kakarot and helps pick off Fury from behind. Ace was zoned out for half health. There's the ultimate from Jinx. Not going to do too much damage. QV basically trying to zone out Sion for his teammates as Candy and Lunar try to show up for cleanup, but Lunar also needs to watch out. Candy a little bit low on mana, flashes forward, but the chain not going to connect, and he's also going to dodge Ace with his distortion backwards. I was focusing a little bit too much on QV and didn't catch exactly what happened to Fury, but it looks like Kakarot and Shaft basically just cornered him in and picked him off along with Candy, I think. No, Candy, that's the kill he had earlier in that mid lane trade. So yeah, it was just Shaft and Kakarot getting that kill. And now the dragon is still up, so both sides could try to fight for it, but considering Nunu's here first and Nunu's on the side of Samsung, I'm going to give credit to Samsung here for most likely taking this dragon. Sivir is also already here, ward down across the wall. They should be able to do it decently quickly, yeah. Shaft can still go for a Lantern Steal if he wants, but it doesn't look like they want to commit to that too much. It's too risky, because if he gets caught here, it definitely leads into a tier 1. So they try to say, all right, let's take our own tower here against Samsung in mid, but QV holding the fort pretty well in mid lane, waiting for his teammates to show up. Meanwhile, Candy trying to burst down Eve, but not going to happen. But they catch QV with a death sentence. A nice double knockup coming in from Sion. Candy still at decent health. Eve gets hit by the Super Mega Death Rocket on Lunar, and Xenics will be able to transition that into a tower here in mid lane, bringing the game still to a pretty close call here. Samsung does have the great advantage of 3 dragon stacks against Xenics, but Xenics, with a nice death sentence onto QV, was able to secure a tower for themselves and even the tower score out, bring the gold gap a little bit closer than it was before. And Lunar he didn't get the kill this time, but he has no deaths either, and he's either starting to just slur all my words here, and he is farming a lot, and they're sending him to farm all the leftover CS here and there. So I do think that Samsung does have to watch out. I mean, Jinx is wow, excuse me. Jinx is one of those champions that if they're left alive, like they will carry the game late game. It's like the old Tristana. It's like a hyper version of Tristana. And so now that we're on, not on break, but we have a little bit of a pause in action. I don't know about anyone else, but having lived with allergies my whole life, so many times have I thought that it would be so great if I could just like pull off my nose, kind of like Mr. Potato Head. It's like pull it off, clean your nose under a faucet, and plug it back in. That'd be so great. But obviously I can't do that. It's pretty sad. Also then other people would pull off my nose and hide it like they do with Mr. Potato Head. And that'd be really mean. So I guess I'm pretty thankful. I'll choose the lesser of the evils here. Jinx at 9,200 gold, 001. 1,000 gold ahead of Fury, and in general, just more carry potential between the champions of Jinx and Sivir. Is going to finish that last Whisper sometime soon. Hey, so here's another note. Not only they're only ahead by about, what, a little less than 1,000 gold, but the reason you can see that Samsung has more experience playing the bigger picture here is that all of their trinkets are upgraded. Every single one of them. You got extra wards coming in from Fury, Ace, and Cuvee. Then you have Eve and Wraith with the upgraded lens, the Oracle lens. And basically they understand that that small advantage for 250 gold provides so much extra vision control in the game that they can really set the pace starting 20 minutes. I think that makes a big difference in how teams play, and I think that's a really good indicator of how you see the game. I mean, yeah, if you're playing catch-up, when you upgrade that is a much trickier question, but at this point in time, when you're only about, when the towers are fairly similar too, sure, Samsung has the dragons, but the point is the gold is similar too. And Xenics could have had all the chances they wanted to upgrade their trinkets too. It's only 250 gold. Only Kakarot, actually, though. Oh, no. Okay, we also have TML, who has it upgraded. I was going to say, if no one upgraded their lens, that'd be pretty dangerous. But we do have at least TML with that. Lunar going for the sweeper, too. Or not the sweeper, the scrying orb, rather. All of them technically sweep, so. And Candy's still a bit of a low impact LeBlanc, as I discussed earlier. Not sure if it'll really change, but again, you don't have to get the kills to really be impactful at some point, especially when you have a Jinx. If you bring someone down pretty low, that Lunar can start getting excited with his passive, then that's all you need. Shaft trying to secure vision around that Baron. Again, when there's a Nunu, you just always have to be super scared of all your jungle objectives. And you also want to clear out all the wards because Cuvee has been charging in with Home Guard off his teleports pretty efficiently for Samsung. The next dragon up in a minute. All right, if this one goes to Samsung, it's like regardless of gold advantage, once you get to 4, it's not even the buff you get, it's the fact that the next one gives 5, right? That's the biggest threat, is that Samsung can basically threaten to suddenly snowball the lead so hard with one extra dragon. I mean, yeah, the 4th buff is really good too, and in general, all the buffs, once they add on to each other, it means a lot. But when it gets to 4, it's because the next dragon suddenly jumps up like 3-fold in terms of, or 10-fold even, in terms of importance and priority and defending it, that it suddenly makes the team who's losing on Dragon Stacks look a little desperate, because it's like, well, we need to block this. Like, we can't simply let it go. You can't, and that gives Samsung the power to force trades in objectives. So this is why starting at 3, you almost want to treat it as the same situation, because otherwise you won't even have a choice in treating it that way. It will just be a fact that you can't give up the next dragon. So Xenics wants to pressure this, but at the same time, then Samsung with Nunu could quickly just get rid of Baron. So good for Xenics for securing vision around Baron too before they came down here. And now they're all grouping down here. Sion walking down, although he does have teleport. If he can set up a good ultimate, it could change things here. Ace does have quite a bit in his arsenal though. Not too much damage against Shaft, but that'll be different against Lunar. Here comes Hecarim from behind the Dragon Pit, and there's on the hunt. Ace jumps in, there's Zonius. 3-man knockup as QV just goes in and zones out Lunar. Lunar gets killed by Ace as Shaft tries to go zone him out. Ace is caught by the Death Sentence, but he blinks out. The knockup not happening from Sion. Eventually gets killed by Candy, but Candy's super low as he gets finished off by Eve. Wraith and Cube still wreaking havoc as Fury throws all the boomerangs in his arsenal to help clean up the fight. 4-1 advantage for Samsung in that team fight. And what will Samsung choose to do? The Dragon's still there, but looks like they're going to just go for that Baron. And Fury says, come on, big guy. I mean, uh-oh, Kakarot, where are you going? I guess, okay, he's going to try to do a super play here. And he's just going to get headbutted back out. There's the snowball. I mean, he doesn't have a smite. So all you got to make sure to do is make sure that Fury doesn't get hit too much. You can't all stand behind Baron. That was really dangerous, because if you all stand behind Baron, it's pretty dangerous. Oh, there's a super mega death rocket. And Fury, is he going to die? There's the knockback. There's the snowball. Kakarot still gets the kill. This guy is so tanky. Wow. This guy. I don't know. It like shouldn't have been that exciting. But he got something done, so props to Kakarot. He's really tanky right now. And that means Xenics will be able to secure the Dragon to deny. Oh, never mind. Ace actually got bursted down to half health, but there's Cube. Goes in with Onslaught of Shadows. Is Lunar going to die? Dragon is also running really low. Sejuani does secure the Dragon, but Lunar dies. So does TML. And Shaft now caught in the Dragon Pit. He's going to try to charge forward, but they're blocking the way. Eventually finds an opening, but Ace will follow through. Oh, Candy gets headbutted back. Good play by Wraith. There's a knockup onto Candy. Kakarot still there at so much health, but Ace coming back forward. The Ace is pretty low, and so is Cube. I don't know if they can continue this. Nice absolute zero, and he's going to stop that. Candy going to jump in and stop that, and they have to run away because Kakarot still has so much health. Holy goodness, this Sion. Considering how this game has been going, Kakarot has so much impact, probably much more than you would expect him to. So let's look at this. Oh, this was the earlier fight, it looks like, yeah, where Lunar, look at this, Absolute Zero and everything, but Lunar just gets zoned out by Cube and he gets bursted down with the full home guard damage. Meanwhile, on the right side, Candy does go back in, gets the kill, but then he's gonna get zoned out. It blinks back in, flashes away from Eve, but can't control both his clone and himself at the same time to try to trick Eve. And eventually Samsung cleans up that team fight that led to the Baron, which also led to Fury's death in the Baron Pit by Kakarot. Samsung is a team, not as a Tim. And let alone we don't have a Tim, we have a Tom on SKT. But Samsung is leading about 5k gold now. 3 dragons, and some of them still have the Baron buff. Cube showing up, but yeah, like you can't charge into Kakarot at this point. And Kakarot has a Banshee's Veil for Ace, and then has a Frozen Heart and a Sunfire. So it's going to be a little while before Samsung can really deal with this Sion. I mean, last time I guess if they didn't go for Baron, they could have killed Kakarot, but then Kakarot would have probably just tried to run away. And you wouldn't have gotten Baron. So at the same time, Samsung isn't going to be able to cleanly finish this game yet until they can guarantee that they can deal with the Sion. On the flip side, Luden's Echo now out for Candy on top of his first 2 core items. Still no death cap though. So what we're seeing with a lot of LeBlancs now is that you are really just focusing a lot on that wave clear and just bringing people low, like going somewhat poke. But against things like Alistar, we saw earlier, it can be pretty dangerous. Wraith has really good reaction speed right now, and Candy can get caught out. So, so it can only work. So I can still understand the theory behind it. Since you were picking Jinx, you have a different hard carry to help there, so you can be kind of the sub carry that just lays it out for your AD to pick up all the kills. We haven't really seen that happen yet, though. Only 5 kills total in a 35-minute game for Xenics. Cuvée taking relatively a lot more damage simply because Kakarot's not taking any. And so the pony will run away. And Samsung, yeah, continuing to try to get that vision advantage as they push through. They want to pressure all these tier 2s at once. Going for the 1-3-1, but not going to be as effective because Kakarot's going to hold his own really well. LeBlanc with the Luden's Echo will be able to clear waves even more efficiently on top of Distortion. And they've defended all the tier 2s. Baron buff is down for all members of Samsung now. And Ace actually getting caught takes a lot of damage. Kassadin can only trade favorably when he has vision and he can Q at the same time. So well done by Candy. Now, if Samsung gets the next dragon, though, again, it's the same situation as it was before, so Xenics still has to play as if this dragon means everything to them, or at the very least, they need to get, like, 2 objectives if they're going to trade it for free over to Samsung. So it's some tough choices and some tough planning coming in for Xenics. Meanwhile, Cuvée still wants to try to do something to Kakarot Scion, but you simply can't. He has another Chain Vest. I mean, this guy just won't take damage. He refuses to. He also has 301 CS and a lot of that helping add health to his health pool, so. Candy going with another Blasting Wand. Most likely a Death Cap. Could be a Void Step, but probably a Death Cap on top of that Abyssal Scepter. So Candy really just going for a lot more AoE, poke damage, wave clear here on that LeBlanc. And then trying to set things up for Lunar, but the Jinx who started 0-0-1 is now 0-2 and 3 and was forced to build a Quicksilver before finishing off her 4th damage item. So that slows down Jinx's damage a little bit, while Fury was able to catch up in terms of core damage items and it equals out at that BF sword after 3. Candy trying to burst down. Whoa, that is a lot of burst, but so did that Boomerang Blade. It only hit one way. Candy needs to go back home. Candy didn't start at full health, just in case you were wondering, just in case you can only hear the audio. LeBlanc didn't start at full health. It's not like Boomerang Blade did 60% damage with only one-way hit, but it does hurt a lot once you gather up on that AD. Xenics is still going to play a little bit of a reactionary League of Legends here. And this next dragon is going to be where a lot of things are decided. If Xenics can win this team fight and get their 2nd dragon, that's actually just a lot of hope and a good window of opportunity for Xenics to continue getting the lead and continue getting their vision back. Baron is also up in 20 seconds, so whoever gets this dragon will most likely also get the Baron. And so we're going to see Kakarot just teleporting in early, trying to get the knockup onto Wraith. Wraith is caught out. There's a Destinus, but they don't want to waste too much time as Cuvée comes in. There's the Absolute Zero. Fury trying to kite from the outside. Onslaught of Shadows over the wall. They're trying to get down onto Lunar. Lunar is still alive, but eventually Lunar goes down. And here comes the monster Kakarot trying to survive as long as possible, but where's the damage for? Xenics nowhere to be seen as Shaft, Kakarot, and TML the only ones alive. It doesn't matter if Kakarot can live forever because no one's going to do damage for him on his team, and now he can't live forever when 4 people are on him with no one to help him out. Cuvée going to just push him into the wall, get the kill for Fury, and body blocking for Fury, knocking him back. And well done by Samsung. I mean, the thing here is that Cuvée, for one, has an easier time sticking to Lunar, and Fury started the fight in a better position, way away from Kakarot, and they're also doing double objectives, both Baron and Dragon at the same time, and Samsung should be able to, from here on out, just close out the game. That's 8K lead in terms of gold. They have 4 stacks of Dragon. They have the Baron buff. At this rate, they will most likely get 5 Dragons and then just end the game while they have that buff, and just go over to the inhibitors while they have Baron. So watch this fight. They focus a little bit too much, like, hey, we caught Wraith out, and here comes Eve. He gets onto Lunar. Lunar has to flash over, so then we see Onslaught of Shadows over the wall. Lunar gets zoned out, and where is Fury? Fury's been free to do just damage and kite around. It actually doesn't even matter if he can do damage the whole time, as long as he lives longer than Lunar. He flashes away, still gets frozen by the Glacial Prison, but he still had his front line in front of him. So Fury basically takes safer positioning the whole time. And it's also easier for him to do so with things like Spell Shield, the extra movement speed on the hunt, and Cuvée having Onslaught of Shadows to catch up to Lunar. So while it's all cool and great for LeBlanc to try to set up kills for Lunar alongside his teammates, it's, you know, it only works if Jinx can live long enough, and there's a Hecarim on the other side along with Alistar and a Nunu. I don't know how you're going to try to get away from that. Using On the Hunt to just quickly push forward while there's no one defending the tower to sneak it in because your minion wave isn't that big. Smart idea from Fury and the team of Samsung as they get one tier 2, and now they can snowball that into a second and maybe a third. Candy goes really low. So does Ace. Candy a little bit lower, but they basically traded as he dove and then secured the tower for Samsung. Here in the mid lane, bottom lane going to take some time before they can push it in because there's a huge minion wave pushing out on the side of Xenics. But Samsung now over 10k gold lead, not over, but 10 kills ahead exactly, and 4 stacks of Dragon. It's just a matter of time before they get 5 and finish the game here against Xenics, which would mean Samsung secures their spot in Champions Summer this year. So this means a lot, so they're probably just going to play it patiently and secure that spot. And after today, I don't expect to see first pick LeBlancs anymore often. Until, you know, balance changes come through. Just even under, like, I'm trying to force myself to understand why they would have done this, like the whole, okay, well, she's going for, you know, she can adapt into this AoE build, she can push, she can split push with that Luden's Echo and distortions, she can try to poke and just, you know, split the damage among everyone so that Jinx can just go off with the Super Mega Death Rocket and then her passive to clean up the fight. That's all cool, but that means right now you're not a high threat to the enemy CC, which means all the CC jumps onto Lunar. It just isn't really working out too well, especially against the champions that Samsung picked. So I'm still a little skeptical. But who knows, maybe they'll have some crazy play that lets them come back and win this game. They need about 5 of those to win the game, but you can never give up in League of Legends. I mean, who knows? Maybe Fury has to go eat dinner. Oh, wow, a nice trade, but Ace goes forward. And a battle of pride for the mid laners. Lunar is doing some good damage from the outside, but against who? Just Eve. Meanwhile, Fury gets drawn back in after exhaustion. There's a Glacial Prison. Fury gets eliminated by Kakarot. Now it's Lunar's time to shine. He's chasing through. QV needs to be slowed so that Lunar can catch up. He does get flayed back, and there's another kill for Lunar. Actually, it's going to go over to Shaft with the shutdown gold. But with Ace gone, they could... It's the flip side, right? Xenics can now focus all of their efforts onto Fury. It works out in a very similar way, except that Ace just generally has more impact than Candy overall. And now Xenics trying to push through since they have their AD carry. And it is Jinx, so they should be able to take this really quickly. Shaft just tanking that tower so that their minions can continue to push through and catch up. There they are. Can they go over for the inhibitor turret too? Ace is up in 5. They need to take it very quickly, and Jinx does exactly that. Can they take the turret? Probably not. The inhibitor itself. Eve going really low. He gets knocked off. More damage coming in for Lunar, but here comes Ace trying to chase Lunar away, but Kakarot will help finish that off. Gives the kill to Lunar. Lunar's passive now activated. There's the death sentence falling all the way through on Ace. Ace is still able to blink out. Pretty low cooldown on that ultimate. He's still coming through, but a lot of damage from Lunar. He's still at health. Pretty healthy state. Here comes Candy from the side. Ace needs to watch out. He dies to the ult. Distortion. Fury gets knocked up after using the Mikhails, and Fury's gonna get caught from the spell shield. Still living. Double kill for Fury. Kakarot gets blocked back. Fury's still alive. QV trying to come in and save Fury. Fury lives. Kakarot now being chased out by QV. What a save by Hecarim and Alistar. And Shaft still, that smite does not do damage. Just a debuff. And so the kill goes to an execution, but Kakarot can't do anything. Fury the hero, along with QV. And, ran into the wall there. Kakarot gonna be slowed down a little bit by QV, but this is basically a battle of the giants, and it's not really gonna go anywhere. That must be so annoying for Kakarot. I mean, it's like, you're not really hurting me, but you're just... Meanwhile, Fury. Yeah, QV's like, I know. Whatever. Fury going to take the inhibitor for Samsung. What a team fight. I mean, good flank by Candy, but I think Fury also just correctly targeted Candy as soon as LeBlanc showed up in front of Sivir and then picked up that kill. And if Samsung gets this dragon, which they will be at 5 stacks, and then Baron will be up in 45. Samsung might just show up with 5 stacks of dragon and a Baron buff to finish off the game. No issues, no questions asked. And so Xenics now trying to set up around Baron themselves first. And top lane being shoved in. Xenics needs to either take Baron or like ace Samsung before. Candy gets spotted, so they know at least LeBlanc is there. Uh-oh, Samsung looks really scary. They're gonna ward over the wall. It's a very tense moment. Because, yeah, I mean, there's a 10k gold difference, but if Lunar stays alive, longer than Fury, Xenics could turn the team fight around. Juve gets caught, not the target they want. That's the other thing, though, is that most of the targets, you're not too eager to jump all in as a team from Xenics once a death sentence goes on. It's like Nunu, pretty tanky. Hecarim, pretty tanky. Kassadin has his Onias. Alistar has his ultimate. It's like you don't want to all in. And Samsung now, they just swapped positions. I mean, Xenics gave up all the advantage they had in terms of positioning and vision here at Baron. There's a teleport coming in from Kakarot in the pit, and they're going to try to just keep Xenics at bay. Candy is already really low. Fury goes in and gets a double kill. Fury just going at it in his team fight as he charged forward. Ace blinks forward to finish off Candy in this game. And Xenics just running away towards Samsung's base. And Wraith just going to stick next to Kakarot to make sure he can't port back home. And Kakarot's like, all right, yeah, fair enough. Wraith's like, I respect that. I can respect your dance. And accepting that Samsung will finish this game. Samsung will win 2-0, having a 4-0 game record today.